Hello everybody. Today we're going to talk about organizational development, which is a term we've heard quite a bit. It causes such concern in some people because organizational development sounds so complex. I'm not sure exactly what that means. Well, if you parse out the statement, organizations, most people know what an organization is. Carl's Jr., Walmart, those are all organizations. Development comes from develop. When you develop something, if you build a house, you're doing a development. If you build a front yard, that's developing something. Relationships are developed. So, organizational development is simply developing an organization. One of the challenges with organizational development today, though, is it's often after the fact. I often call it organizational redevelopment. Because what happens is, we embark on organizational development because the organization that we're currently working with or for is not working. So we feel like we have to analyze that organization, realign, restructure, refocus that organization. And that entire process is often called organizational development. And at its core, there's one function that organizational development is concerned with, and that is there's a perception, real or otherwise, that the organization is not functioning well. It's not producing the optimum number of products or services that it could. And so somebody comes in who's an organizational consultant, organizational development consultant, often known as an OD consultant for short, and they analyze the business and try to determine several aspects, but most importantly, why isn't the organization operating at its optimum capacity? And so that consultant will do an analysis of the organization to find out how they can right-size the organization. Right-size is another business term that basically means how to create an organization that's going to achieve the objectives of the organization in a much more efficient and effective way. So there's four particular areas that we're going to look at when we talk about organizational development. First, you're going to look at what the organization does, what kind of product or service that they create. Then you're going to look at what the organization does well and doesn't do well. Because if an organization does well, you want to promote that. And if it doesn't do well at something, you want to try to fix that. So in this essence, really, you're trying to figure out what isn't working so that you can fix it. And that's important. Then you look at the structure of the organization. So you know it does well, you know what they do, you know what they, in other words, the product or service, you know what they do well and not well. And organizational development is really involved with changing the organization so that it can do something better. And that's the third aspect. What do they do now that they're not doing as good as they could? And how could you change the structure so that the organization will do it much better in the future? So you can change departments, change reporting relationships. All of those are directed to ensuring that you produce more of the products and services that you can. And this follows into the last step, which is where you actually realign the organization and provide the communication techniques and the forms so the employees and the supervisors understand how the organization is radically different in some cases today than it was yesterday. Organizational development is a phenomenal tool, and it should be done on an iterative basis, and a continual basis. It should not be something that's done only when the organization does well. It should be done when the organization is doing superb but could be better. And it's like a strategic plan. You don't do a strategic plan and then put it on the shelf. You do a strategic plan every year and update and what you have learned, and then also try to assess where you may have some stresses or issues that could cause concern in the future. Organizations that do that, a continual look at their operations to see where their operations do well and where they don't do well. And here's the last piece. Every single person has to be working towards making a better organization. They have to be producing more products or services at a better price and bringing in more customers. When you find out customers are not, when you find out that your employees or people in the organization are not doing that, that is a perfect example of where organizational development is going to highlight those aspects that are not working to the organization's benefit and realign the organization so that those processes and procedures and those departments that aren't adding value to the organization do so in the future. So that's what we look at when we look at organizational development. We look at what they do. We look at what they do well and not well. We look at how we could realign the organization so that each and every aspect of the organization is directed towards raising the efficiencies and effectiveness of the new organization. And finally, we're looking at implementing a process that's going to create a new organization that is going to last, at least for the coming future, and meet the needs of the customers. Everybody have a great day. Certainly look forward to chatting again.